Well, today Congress passed a bill that lays the foundation for the transfer of wealth, the transfer of your money to the rich by taking away your Medicaid and many other services so that they can give the wealthy a whole lot of money. And, these clowns actually believe that that somehow Americans are not going to see this. Well, interestingly, we have a Democratic analyst and a Republican analyst that just alike believe that this is going to be their demise. Because again, there's one thing you don't mess with, something that affects all. And that is what, again, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, and other systems that affect MAGA. But here's the deal. And all Americans, but here's the deal. It affects MAGA much more so than anybody else. And that is the gist of this little segment that Morning Joe did. Very well put together segment. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I want to talk, though, about this Republican budget resolution, and there is a long way to go. I think one of the more interesting battles right now, we've seen it on tariffs between Elon Musk and Steve Bannon, sort of ultra-MAGA. We're also hearing it on tax cuts. There are actually some people from the MAGA wing of the party, the Bannon wing of the party, that's saying we don't need to be giving tax cuts to the ultra-wealthy. And you heard some of that talk over the past couple of days. Maybe it'll just be on tips. I know Republicans. They can't help themselves. They're going to give massive tax cuts to the richest Americans. They're just the party that can't say no, to paraphrase a song in Oklahoma. But talk about how that sets up the next election. And I will say politically, the dream scenario for Democrats, where you can turn to anybody in rural America in the exurbs, you can turn to veterans, you can turn to people whose parents are in nursing homes and say, the reason why your veterans benefits, the reasons why you as a veteran got fired, the reason why your health care in rural America and outside big cities got slashed is because Republicans had to do it to pay for their tax cuts for the rich. Isn't that what they're setting up for themselves?
They are. And I think, just to go back to what Jen Palmieri said earlier, one of the things that the Democrats can and shouldn't, you've seen some of this, but it needs to be militant every single day, focus on digital ads, everybody should be doing town halls talking about this, is these cuts to Medicaid, because they massively impact not just seniors, but middle income, lower income families. They impact kids, and also what they have previewed they're about to do to Social Security. The tax cuts on the highest income and corporate America has always been one of the most unpopular things that Republicans, most of them, have advocated for. That is true. But doing it in such an upfront, blatant, overt way of cutting Medicaid, cutting those sorts of programs that millions of Americans rely on, doing what they're previewing they're going to do on Social Security, they've never been quite as overt as that. And I think that is a big part of the story that every Democrat can tell in nearly every district over the next several months.
And Matt, this isn't like big city folk against rural folk, right? This isn't the left versus the right. The people in red state America are going to get disproportionately hurt. Rural America is going to get disproportionately hurt. Some estimates say as many as 50% of children in rural America get their primary health care on Medicaid, from Medicaid. Nursing homes all across America, but especially in red state America, funded by Medicaid, right? So that doesn't just impact poor people in urban centers, which has always been how Republicans tried to simplify this. No, this hurts everybody in red state America, in blue state America. It just hurts disproportionately in red state America, which means if you look at Elon Musk and the cuts to the VA, you're talking about, if you live in red state America outside of a city, maybe you're driving 150 miles to go to your VA clinic instead of it just being in your hometown or just down there. Same thing with rural hospitals, not to go on for this too long, forgive me, but rural hospitals have been in crisis over the past decade. These cuts in Medicaid will just absolutely undermine rural health care and hurt red state America the most.
No, I think you're totally right, Joe. A lot of the Trump policies, ironically, hit Trump voters disproportionately. And I would say Trump voters specifically even more than what might have been standard issue Republican voters a decade ago. Donald Trump wanted to remake the Republican Party to be a working class party, but some of the policies haven't kept pace. And I would say, Joe, not to dwell on tariffs specifically, but even the most recent issue of tariffs, disproportionately hit poor people because they're essentially a regressive sales tax. And a lot of those folks are now Trump voters. And then the tariffs also are going to hit farms and farming, partly because of retaliation against our farmers and partly because farmers need to buy things like tractors and steel. So it is interesting that a lot of Donald Trump's policies, including those that you just mentioned, will be hitting rural America, folks who vote for Donald Trump. And you have to wonder at some point if they notice, if they care, and if there's a backlash.
Yeah. Mika, we talked about landman last hour, which follows what mainly working class people do in oil and gas industry. There's a reason why Ted Cruz has come out so strongly warning about the impact of the tariffs. Those jobs are going to be disproportionately impacted. Farmers going to be disproportionately impacted. Main Street, USA, going to be disproportionately impacted on a lot of the tariffs and also on these cuts. It's really something the Republicans need to be thinking about as they move forward in this process, because it's red state America. It's these new voters they brought on board, Donald Trump's brought on board, that may be hurt the most.
Right.
So yes, FAFO. Think about it. These people thought they were voting for something that they weren't voting for. Notice what they're asking. Donald Trump is slowly saying, oh, well, you're going to have to take a little bit of pain for the future. And a lot of his sycophants are saying, yeah, we can take a little bit of pain for the future. Of course, they weren't ready to take any pain from Biden, right? It didn't matter that Biden brought a whole lot of infrastructure bills and all these other things that were taking some time to actually get effected. Oh, that, it just was terrible and prices high, all this kind of stuff. But now it's fewer Trump, and they're willing to give him a chance. But it's amazing. While they weren't willing to give Biden a chance for something that he did that would make their lives better, they're willing to give Donald Trump a chance to complete a bill that's going to rip them off and leave them poorer. The taxes that they're cutting for the wealthy people, that's going to cost you money, and specifically MAGA. And the tariffs that they're going to charge going to cost you a hell of a lot of money. Think about anything coming from China with a 145% tariff. That means a product that you buy from China, the raw product itself, not the retail price, but the raw price is going to cost almost 1.5 times what it costs more now. So if Walmart paid $10 for the product, it's going to now cost $25. Think about that. That is what you voted for, and that is what's coming to get you.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.